I don't know if William Shatner is a great actor or not. I saw Star Trek, the old series, the original series, and the movies, and everything I've seen through the movies. It's some good, some bad, but in this movie, he's fantastic. He is completely invested in the character of Kirk, and it's almost like you couldn't separate the two of them.
If you rewatch the entirety of the original series, Kirk Shatner, he's great.
I took the proper steps in the proper order. I did exactly what had to be done, exactly when it should have been done.
All right. Watch. Wallet. Gun. Knee. Right foot. Left foot. Thank God for guns, huh, Jerry?
Do you even get that joke? Well, there's many things to talk about in Star Trek: The Next Generation, but today we're here to talk about Star Trek: The Motion Picture from 1979. Per your request, Jim.
Thank you. Yeah.
And I see you more as a Star Wars guy.
True. Yeah.
Less of a Star Trek guy. What made you want to discuss Star Trek: The Motion Picture?
I mean, yeah, I've always liked Star Wars and the original trilogy, and just the current climate with all these crazy space wars. I wanted to watch it again, and I watched it again. I just got this warm, nice, nostalgic feeling where I didn't have to worry about anything, and I just enjoyed a movie again. I like the movie. I don't know how you feel about it.
I rewatched it again, and I loved it even more.
Right.
After rewatching it yet again.
The movie's kind of the ugly duckling of the Star Trek movie family.
The first motion picture, which got off to a rocky start, stumbled out of the gate, would be a good analogy.
Sure.
So Star Trek, of course, ended in 1969.
Right.
It was canceled. It gained popularity in syndication. And then 1975 was when they started to say, let's make a movie.
Oh, okay. Is this before Phase 2?
This is before Phase 2. Then Star Wars happened. And then they're like, wait, maybe we should do a TV show.
Right.
Then they start the TV show, and then, interestingly enough, because I thought 1979, right? The Star Trek: The Motion Picture is so dull and slow, and it feels almost like 2001: A Space Odyssey. Like, I'm like, how is this made after Star Wars?
Sure.
How is a movie made in 1979 not about space battles? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, their basis for going back to the movie was the success of Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Okay.
Was like, oh, a boring movie can be successful in the theaters.
Sure.
So they took all their work on Phase 2, which included Ilea, Decker, all those characters, and they kind of, and they took the pilot script. So it's like back and forth, and then confusion, and then I guess we're gonna make a movie.
Yeah.
So let's get the guy who directed West Side Story to do it.
Well, I was gonna say, you know, Robert Wise's obvious choice, Andromeda Strain, The Day the Earth Stood Still. He's made sci-fi and sci-fi thrillers like The Sound of Music.
Sound of Music is a
in
great
West Side
sci-fi
Story.
thriller.
Yeah.
Oh, let's see if I can make it easier.
And Andromeda Strain, he had the credentials of making the most boringest sci-fi movie ever made.
Right.
So they were like, we gotta get that
We gotta
guy.
get that guy.
What do you love about Star Trek: The Motion Picture?
I watched it again just last night, and the thing that stood out the most is I used to watch Star Trek when I was a kid. I liked it. I've always liked Star Trek and the Kirk, Bones, Spock.
Original series.
Yeah, the original series, and the three of them together in their relationship.
Ah, yes. I understand.
But in this movie, it's really different. And so, you know, and even for the diehard fans back then, they're together, and there's that one scene in the meeting room where Kirk's wearing a space dentist outfit with his gorilla arms.
I was going to talk about Kirk's arm hair, but The costumes in
Well, we can
motion
talk about
picture
costumes.
is a big topic.
You're asking me what I really liked
Yeah,
about
yeah,
it.
yeah.
It's that their relationship is strained, and it's so good because it's an arc. It's the start of an arc that leads to the end of the movie where everything feels like Star Trek again, and their relationship feels the same again. But it's strained because Spock has been away for so long. They don't know, how to make heads or tails out of him. They don't know what's going on with him. Bones doesn't really want to be back.
Kirk isn't even welcome himself on the Enterprise.
True, exactly. But he's also again, he's playing mediator, and he's like, this is us. And it works so well.
Well, that's the theme of the film is searching,
Sure.
searching for where you belong.
Right.
And that's because every character's that way. I mean, except for Bones to a certain extent, but really it's Kirk and Decker and
Spock.
Spock definitely, and V'ger.
Not so much Chekhov.
Not so much Chekhov, but
And V'ger, absolutely. And
yeah.
V'ger and Spock are they're analogous. They're
yes, they're the driving force really behind the story. And well, actually, it's the love story between Decker and Ilea that's really the heart of the story.
which, I mean, there's been romance in Star Trek in the past, but this is a bit different.
It's different because it doesn't involve a main character.
Right.
It's sort of like the backbone of the story.
I'm sorry.
That you left Delta for? Or that you didn't even say goodbye?
The film oozes sexuality.
Sure.
To a lot of outsiders, it's the dullest film and the slowest
Right.
and the most clinical looking film because the scenery, I love the 70s era costumes. They existed for one film.
Okay.
They're very 1970s, especially when Bones shows up and he has like
His
Saturday
medallion
Night
and
Fever outfit.
yeah,
And he has
his
a
like
gold medallion.
white lounge suit and his fake beard.
Chest hair's coming out. He's got gold chains
Like,
on.
I'm on 70s retirement vacation, whatever it is he's
They
doing.
drafted me. I was at a disco. They beamed me out of the disco up to the ship.
He's not happy. But then immediately, and starting from Star Trek 2 on, they're wearing the big stuffy British imperialist uniforms.
Yeah, all right,
from
and you
then
don't
on.
like that.
No.
Okay,
I'm going to go find a pot of black coffee.
okay, when Kirk first comes aboard the Enterprise, or when he first comes to San Francisco, I guess, he's wearing what looks
Which
like
looks dramatically different
Yeah.
than it does in Star Trek Into Darkness.
It's true. But he's wearing what looks like a cruise ship's captain's outfit. But that's relatable, and that's good. That's good costume design.
Yeah.
I mean, referencing Star Wars, very simple, very basic, but there's a practicality about it. So engineering in Star Trek, there seems to be like a shield or something going on. And I like that. That's all very practical. And Decker's in his space pajamas, and then you have Ilea. Once Ilea becomes robot Ilea, and she's wearing a silk karate suit with no pants.
I have recorded enough here. You will now assist me further.
My favorite scene in the film, as a preamble here, is the probe scene.
Yeah, that's a great scene.
When that beam of plasma is kind of going around the bridge, and I don't know how they shot it, and I want to talk about photography.
And
too.
I have an idea how they shot it.
Where it's some kind of bizarre fast motion. It's like they shot it in slow motion and sped it up, or vice versa. There's something weird about the motion. So the probe's moving around the bridge. Decker says, "Don't interfere with it."
Don't interfere with it.
Then 2 seconds later, he interferes with it.
Yeah.
And then it chooses Ilea for some reason and kind of like vaporizes her. The device she's holding drops to the floor, and it kind of cuts back to real time or reality, and it's a totally different feel. And that sequence, I just love that sequence. I love the sound effects. Kind of like horrifying and frightening.
Yeah.
As was the entirety of the original series, which I always maintained was a horror TV show.
there is something disturbing about the way that it's shot, and it's almost like when David Lynch will shoot something horrific, and he loves the sound effects of like cables fusing and electricity and lighting. And I think what's going on in the scene is they have a strobe as well as the practical cylinder tube that they've brought in for the scene.
Okay.
But there's a strobing effect going on as well, which is messing with the frame rate. And I almost feel like they're chopping out frames. And that's what's so good about the visual effects in this film is it's such a marriage between practical and post-production visual effects and animation.
Hello, Ilea.
Decker is in love with her. They had a prior relationship, although it did not...
On Delton.
Yeah, she's Delton, which is, I guess, a race that just exudes sexuality.
And that they're better at it than anyone.
Yeah. And Ilea is played by Indian model Persis Kambata. And so the first thing she says when she comes on the Enterprise, just randomly, is...
My oath of celibacy is on record, Captain. May I assume my duties?
By all means.
Because she can read people's minds. So...
Because Chekhov and Sulu,
Yeah.
they're like, whoa,
Yeah.
you know, and then she's like, my vow of celibacy is on file.
And I'm always feeling like Kirk's just kind of like, he's kind of there already to the point that he wouldn't be broadcasting that to her. And I almost wish he said, why are you so condescending?
Essentially, Ilea's killed and replaced with a robot, and it ends up in sickbay. Bones is scanning her, and he's like, it's microprocessors down to the cellular level.
She's a mechanism.
She's a mechanism.
Two unmanned spacecraft, Voyager 1 and 2, lifted off from Cape Canaveral atop Titan Centaur rockets.
The United States launched the Voyager probe series, right?
Right, in 1979.
Yeah, which this is a fictional probe called Voyager 6.
Right. There's only Voyager 1 and 2
Voyager
that were
1
launched.
and 2. At some point, Voyager 6 went into a black hole, ended up on...
What we used to call a black hole.
What we used to call a black hole.
Voyager 6 disappeared into what they used to call a black hole.
And made its way to an alien planet of machines.
Right.
And they wanted to fulfill Voyager's original programming, which was to talk to the creator.
Right.
Which is humans.
To relay back.
Yeah. It's kind of similar to the whale plot, where they want to come back and talk to the whales.
So it's part a living machine, but one of my favorite things in the movie is the analogy between V'ger and Spock and how that plays out. But it's not information. It's like an emotional connection he has with it, and that's why he has to leave the Kolinar.
Yes, and the Kolinar is the final ceremony in becoming not becoming a Vulcan, but the Vulcan rite of passage of I am completely denying all emotion.
Right.
And
he's so close.
Yes, he's so close to the fact where she's about to put the necklace on him that says, you've passed the Kolinar test. And he says, no, wait.
And then...
There's something I got to do first.
Yeah.
There's something that needs my help out in space.
I need to fix this map painting. Kirk looks great. You know, he shows up in the subway shuttle spaceship.
Yep. He heard about the fact that a giant space cloud of destructive power is heading towards Earth in a couple days. So he's like, I'm gonna command the Enterprise and go investigate this thing. For some reason, the Enterprise is the only ship able to reach it.
Right.
And so he convinces Admiral Nagura that he should take over the command chair from Decker.
You're what?
I'm replacing you as captain of the Enterprise.
Because Decker is relatively incompetent.
He's very emotionally charged in his decisions.
Yes.
Except with relation to his knowledge of the Enterprise.
Right.
Which, he out-knowledges Kirk.
That is a dramatic element in the film,
Right.
is Kirk's unfamiliarity with the new retrofitted Enterprise.
And a great arc for Kirk's character. Decker don't what does he say? Don't
Stop competing with me, Decker.
Stop competing
with me. And Bones says, no, Jim, it's you that's competing.
Right.
Which is great. And Kirk realizes it. And as things go, he starts trying to be a little bit nicer. Like that whole, what's that pointing scene? He's like, Decker.
Yes, it is.
I stand corrected.
Decker's big moment is when the Enterprise warp engine imbalance
Yeah.
sends them into a wormhole.
It's my least favorite part of the movie. Visually, it's good, but
They didn't just smear the colors, they smeared them and they went behind the actors.
Mr. Chekhov, stand by our phasers. No!
And I don't know how they did that in 1979.
It's visually
beautiful.
great, but
The point was that
belay that order.
Kirk orders phasers on the asteroid, but Decker knows that the phasers are routed through the engine, which would cause the ship to blow up. So he goes, "Photon torpedoes away!"
Fire torpedo! Big torpedo engine away!
And interestingly enough, that's the only time the Enterprise fires a weapon in the whole film. It's just a side note. I'm talking about after Star Wars, everybody.
Yeah, well,
There's no space lasers in this film.
which is, to the movie's credit, it's not a big laser blast explosion action movie.
No,
It's-
and that's
it's
what's great
a
about it.
thoughtful,
Yes.
cerebral.
I'm not saying that's a detriment. I'm
No.
saying it's surprising given the climate of science fiction.
Yeah, its story is by Alan Dean Foster,
Okay.
who was the ghostwriter for the Star Wars novelization. He also wrote the great novel Splinter of the Mind's Eye, which was the sequel to Star Wars that never got made.
Is this all that I am? Is there nothing more?
Because it's a movie about life, creation.
Right. I don't know if William Shatner is a great actor or not. I didn't watch much T.J. Hooker. I saw Star Trek, the old series, the original series, and the movies, and everything I've seen through the movies. Some good, some bad, but in this movie, he's fantastic. He is completely invested in the character of Kirk, and it's almost like you couldn't separate the two of them. It's really good acting for someone like William Shatner, who seems over the top and...
That's one of the two myths about Kirk and Shatner, same thing, is that Shatner is a terrible actor. And that Kirk was the sexual playboy.
Hello, ladies.
Then if you rewatch the entirety of the original series, Kirk Shatner, he's great.
I took the proper steps in the proper order. I did exactly what had to be done, exactly when it should have been done.
It's like he knows when to be sober and when to be focused,
Yes.
and when to play it up and be sort of playful with things.
But on top of playing a character, he's also, as a leader, he's also acting on top of acting.
Yeah.
Because as a captain, you have to.
The movie's on his shoulders, and he has to lead it. Yeah.
There's a wonderful moment in Star Trek: The Next Generation when Captain Picard and Beverly Crusher are connected in the brain, and they're trapped on a planet, and she's like, "Which way do we go?"
This way.
You don't really know, do you?
What?
I mean, you're acting like you know exactly which way to go, but you're only guessing. Do you do this all the time?
And they start walking, and she's like, "You have no idea where we're going, right?" And he's like, "Of course I don't." And he's like, That's how I project confidence.
It's my job.
Is I have to pretend
Yeah.
that I know exactly what I'm doing, even if I don't, because I'm a captain.
No, but there are times when it is necessary for a captain to give the appearance of confidence.
Sure.
So there's
layers, yeah.
and Shatner knows how to do that.
Yeah,
So he doesn't get enough credit.
Again, reiterating, like, Shatner is Kirk, Kirk is Shatner, and they're entwined, and it's like you look at the J.J. Abrams reboot, and I'm sorry, like, Christopher Pine, is that his name?
Oh, yeah.
On a motorcycle? That could be any, like, blonde-haired guy from California in that role. And the same goes for someone trying to play, like, a famous Harrison Ford role, and saying, I'm a driver, I'm a flyer.
I'm a driver, and I'm a flyer. I waited a long time for a shot like this.
This scene creeped me out when I was little. Spock shows up, and he's like a complete asshole to everybody because he'd just done the Kolinahr.
Yeah, and failed.
And failed, but they're like, Mr. Spock, you know, and everyone's like, hey, Spock, welcome back. And
did you hear that he apparently was doing method acting on set?
Oh.
And he was completely like shutting himself off socially from the other cast members. And I think that was for maybe the first half of the movie, because then he lightens up after.
Up until he does the mind meld.
Yeah, and I always imagine like, again, with the costumes, his costume when he arrives is terrible. Like, it's like this black weird cloak with a weird like Vulcan question mark at the top. And I imagine like, you know, Chekhov's like a little boy. He's like, Mr. Spock, you're a vampire? Precisely. I do really like Uhura's line, it's how we feel, Mr. Spock. And he immediately ignores her. And
yes.
It's how we all feel, Mr. Spock.
Captain, with your permission, I will now discuss these fuel equations with the engineer.
And
it's great.
It's great, but it's also wonderfully awkward. But they didn't give the audience what they wanted, which is a beautiful reunion of everybody, until the very end.
Which is fine.
That's what I'm saying is great, is because there's that realism to it, you know? It's not just like, Star Trek's back, everybody, you know, it's just...
But I take your point, they're not giving the audience what they want. I think the audience would have been happier if they got that gratification earlier on. My favorite scene, and this is just after Spock's arrived with all the weirdness, and he's really cold to everyone, and Kirk's pleading with him, like, you know, I want you to come out and show me who you used to be and everything. It's just such a powerful scene.
Yeah, in the form of, will you please sit down?
I mean, he's just asking him to sit down, but what he's actually saying is, please talk to me. And
where are you, Spock? Yeah.
And the look on even Leonard Nimoy's face looks really sad. Mm-hmm. It's almost like I can't be part of this anymore.
Report to the bridge, Commander. Immediately.
And Kirk's, there's a darkness to him that I really like that you would know better than I would, but in the in the old series, original series, I don't remember him being that way. That sort of controlling, I need to get what I want.
Right.
And it's darker than it, I don't know, somehow it seems darker than it, than it has been in the past. Jerry Goldsmith does the music. I think it's really good. The Ilea theme's great. I mean, this is the first of many firsts for Star Trek and subsequent movies as well as Next Generation. The theme song, main title theme, is used in Next Generation. It's a good theme. It's great. It's powerful.
But let's talk about sets, spaceships,
production design,
map paintings. Yes,
sure.
The upside down Regular One station. I love the Klingon battle cruisers, the updated versions from TOS. When they get to that close up.
Oh, I know.
And the torpedoes come out, and there's burn marks.
Yeah,
on the torpedo.
I'm not super into vinyl records, but this is what I imagine someone who's really into vinyl records for. So when we're talking about, you know, the chaos surrounding space films these days. And going back and seeing the Katinga class Klingon ships approaching camera, I just feel so warm and happy and just relaxed. And I can see film grain and scratches and pops. And I can tell it's real and there's bad matting issues. I can see where it's cut out.
And they're in the miniature shots of the beauty shots of the Enterprise. Mm-hmm. There are many shots where there's schmutz.
Yeah, on the screen?
In the film gate or whatever,
yeah.
And it's just stuck there.
Yeah.
Just left it in.
Yeah, it's a great sequence. The map paintings, They're questionable, but there's something that I really love about them. You know, this isn't Star Wars, this is 1979 Star Trek. The San Francisco, what do you call it, the shuttle pod bay? It makes no sense. It's a matte painting. It doesn't totally work. It's partially cloudy outside, partially blue sky. You can see the Golden Gate Bridge in the background. There is no light source anywhere. It's just this, it looks like soup.
Yeah.
Orange and barf colors.
What about V'ger?
So the original V'ger, or at the start, the V'ger shots they're all like airbrushed patterns on different pieces of glass. So there was some sense of parallax, you know, as camera moves past, and it gets a little more complex as it goes on. I think they introduced some model work, still with glass and some painted work, and then they eventually get to, I guess, when Spock is approaching the aperture. As Uhura puts it, and suddenly we're on full-fledged model, like giant scale model with, it looks like in the background there's like a laser cylinder of light, like a cylinder of laser light. They're using lasers in the background and smoke.
Yeah.
Just to give, you know, kind of an atmosphere, and it looks great.
There's all those wonderful shots that give you the sense of scale.
Yeah.
When they have the tiny Enterprise. That whole interior is great.
Yeah.
But then, yes, Spock does mind meld, and he just can't handle it.
No.
And then that's when Spock learns that emotion is an important part of the discovery process of learning about yourself.
And sex.
And sex and the universe and who you are, where you came from, what your point in the universe is, and the mystery.
Right.
That's the component that V'ger is missing, is the human element. Sure, it has all the knowledge in the universe of facts and robotics and technology, but it's the wonderment.
Yeah.
And that's what Spock was trying to purge at the beginning.
Is this all there is?
Is this all there is?
Yeah, there's that, but also a huge part of it is that companionship, and V'ger's alone.
Yes.
And Spock realizes he has Kirk, he has Bones, and he has the crew.
This simple feeling is beyond V'ger's comprehension.
And then at the end, V'ger erupts in a glorious explosion and becomes a new being altogether.
Speaking of the ending, with Deckard unifying with Ilia, that, like, practically and visual effects wise, is one of the most amazing shots in the film.
That sequence of them, those weird shapes leading up to where the Voyager probe is.
Yeah.
I mean, with the light coming out of it. I mean, it's just such weird, unique visuals.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's grounded too. I love that V'ger creates the bridge going up to the Enterprise saucer section, I guess. And then they all come up out of a panel and walk onto it. And it's based on natural geological shapes, like hexagonal basal volcanic columns or whatever. And I like that there's a grounding in reality there.
I would very quickly like to mention when they climb out of the Enterprise.
Yeah.
That's a matte painting.
Yeah.
Of you see the bridge, the slope down, and then there's a side view, which may have been done 5 minutes before the actual screening of the film. That looks like a child painted it, and it was painfully obvious in Blu-ray quality. It looked like a birthday cake. Like if someone had an Enterprise birthday cake, that's what it looked like. And I'm not faulting the film. It has amazing visual effects.
Yeah.
But that particular shot, whoa.
We get the reveal of who V'ger is with, all the weird alien V'ger noises, very reminiscent of, Close Encounters in a way. And then Kirk is the one to do it, and he scrapes off letter by letter, V-O-A-Y-E-R. And I always felt that could have been handled somehow better, a little more subtly.
V-G-E-R. V'ger.
Like he didn't really have to even smear off the letter.
So it's a bit like Sesame Street.
Yeah.
Letter by letter, and then just Voyager 6.
This is nice.
Voyager. Voyager.
See, they reveal it to the audience.
Right.
It's like that moment when Vedra says carbon-based life forms like 100 times when they first meet her.
Carbon-based units. Carbon-based units.
I don't know if fake Aaliyah needed to say Voyager.
Voyager.
Like 5 times.
What are you, nitpicking the film now?
I am.
Voyager. Voyager.
Vedra's kind of like Zardoz with the Wizard of Oz. Spoilers.
Voyager's on the screen again. Voyager. But I guess she's like a child.
Kirk unit.
Kirk unit. Kirk unit. Kirk unit.
We're talking about sets. The giant set.
Yeah.
The big crew lounge that later serves as the staging area in the beginning of the film.
I have a theory about that.
Please.
I feel like that might have been Robert Wise's decision. This is the first time you ever get to see the amount of population of the Enterprise, right? And it's like a big, huge scene with tons of people that are all gathered to discuss the Voyager situation. But you see it in Robert Wise films. You see it in the ballroom scene in Sound of Music. It's a big party, tons of people, giant big room. You see it in West Side Story in the gymnasium scene where the dance-off happens to show the scope of the war between the different cultures. So that's my take on it.
That makes sense. Because you're in a kind of a claustrophobic situation in the ship, tight hallways, little rooms.
And
wants to open it up and give you scope. That makes sense. That makes sense. Overall, Star Trek: The Motion Picture, it's a unique thing, because from 2 on, it kind of found its footing.
Right.
Because this one, it's
for good or bad.
For good or bad, yeah. This one, it's like, well, what do we do? Star Wars is popular. Oh my gosh.
And that's
also
that's
popular.
why this movie needs to be respected so badly, because any movie that comes out now on the coattails of another similar genre film that can do something that different, as much as people compare it to 2001, it's the perfect way to go about a Star Trek movie.
Right.
Yeah. There's no other way they could do it.
Yeah.
And it still remained kind of artistic and.
Yeah, artistic, well done, and true to the original TV show.
Right.
Motion picture, the best of the original Star Trek films, with the exception of possibly 4.
By Wrath of Khan, we already know who the characters are. We've known them from the old series, but we know who they are. We know how they're going to interact. In the motion picture, we still don't know. They're still refinding their footing.
Yes.
And there's an enjoyable arc to sit through to get to the end of that.
Right. I remember thinking the sequences when they're going through the cloud are just so boring. But now when I watch it and I just sit back and I say, they're investigating this phenomenon, they don't know what it is, and they're going through it and they're discovering it as they enter the Voyager energy field. And it's so Star Trek, and you'll never have a movie like that ever again.
Work for you?